And even back in high school, I knew I wanted a PhD. So, of course, I came to Iowa State University to get my PhD in mathematics. I think internships are always tricky for math people who are trying to do industry level work or apply their mathematics, but they've always kind of delved into the pure or the logical side of mathematics. The work that I did revolved around energy justice. Think about how we put up different structures to gain power in the neighborhoods we put them in. And so there are different socioeconomic factors as well as environmental factors. Who isn't receiving justice when it comes to energy? Like, who is being injustice?
Sometimes from my own personal experience, when I'm working on something that doesn't feel mathematical, I find that I think conceptually or abstractly in ways that comes naturally to a mathematician. So did you ever have that type of experience during this internship or some of the other ones that you've mentioned previously as well?
Yes, conceptually. I want to say yes, because throughout some of them I do feel like there were moments where I felt like, wow, I'm doing something I enjoy. Even with the Department of Energy, when there were moments like when I was coding, I felt like I'm doing something to help the team, right? Another part that I didn't mention because it's something I tend to not want to think about is the meeting side of programs or even anything, just having to attend meetings. Um, there weren't a lot of them, but I think, how can I say this? There's a right, not a right way, but there's a better way to say this. Um, there is no better way to say it. As I think about it, no, there is no better way to say it. Um, it's a great program. And I think that if I had a better idea about what data scientists and data analysts did, that would have put me in the mindset of the math that I would be doing better.
Mm.
Um, so to expound on that a little bit, I know that Iowa State has a data science program that's getting off the ground. It may be in like its second or third year. I know that I'm too old of a student to have experienced it, but I think that for me, I knew that I was interested in data science. I heard about neural networks. I used some neural networks in my research. So I saw a lot of different points in space, but I didn't know how they connected, right? So I've done a summer program with the IMA and University of Minnesota. I'm forgetting, it's the Math to Industry Boot Camp. So that was also like delving into data science type summer program. And that one was really helpful because it showed me like, oh, people in data science, in Python, they're gonna use pandas, they're gonna use NumPy, scikit, they're gonna use all these different features. And so when I started my internship with the DOE, I think I also came in with, okay, I know about these things, but how can I make them connect? But it kind of gave me more points, right? So whereas I'm looking for connections in this, let's make a math analogy here. I'm in an in space and I have all these different points and I'm trying to get connections. And I go to the next internship hoping to make more connections in my in space, but instead I'm like now an in plus four space, right? With fewer connections. So combinatorially, there are more connections that can be made, but I have so few now. So when I say I wasn't able to do as much math, I think that's because I came in with not a good firm understanding of what I needed to do to be able to reach the math. And I don't think we see a lot of mathematicians go out to do industry. So it's not a lot of people there who can be or who can serve as a guide to like what it means to do math at an industry level. I think you see a lot of engineers take on these roles, and engineering looks very different, at least in my opinion, very different from a math PhD. So the way you come in I think the word is undergirth of knowledge that you must have to sustain, it felt like my internship, I was learning more, and I think I was more excited to do. right? Um, so I think that gets to the conceptual thing. I think to again bring that back full circle. I think I didn't have a good knowledge of what a data science or data analyst really does or what they really get to do. I mean, I've done research since then. In the internship, it showed a lot about um, what I need to know, what I'd be expected to do, and it helped me when it comes to applying to jobs of looking for positions. I think what was hard about that was I was on a specialized team as an individual, and not to say I didn't have help or assistance, but I think it's a lot easier to come onto a job or come join a team where you're sharing your position with someone else, where there's like a lead one, lead two, whereas you come in and like you are the specialized person, and then there's no one really to guide you fully or to even like talk to, in a sense of like, oh, we're in this together. This is what it needs to look like. Um, so I'll say that there were a lot of things I think in my mind and a lot of things that I went through that were different that kind of made it not feel like I was doing math.
Mm. But it did open up some horizons for you of what math might look like in different contexts. It sounds like that.
Yes. So because of it, I think it just shows me a lot of things I needed to research and a lot of things I needed to look up. So I knew what a data science and data analyst was, but because of it and some of the research and networking I've done, I've heard of what a data engineer was. I learned about just thinking of different things I've done, picking up SQL. So I'm naturally just drawn to Python, and my interpretation is SQL is essentially a different version of doing like pandas, just data frame operations. So learning things like that. From the Omni internship, of course, I learned about how do you even analyze data. So before I thought you just ran tests on them and then there are tests built into the computer and you can make a new test where you want to minimize error or do such things in the realm of optimization. But there's even prerequisites to even get up to running the data, cleaning the data, gathering data. So I think as I think about it now again and put it back, I will say the internship did also a good job at showing you what the full picture looks like. So, and I think that might be one of my qualms is that I think I just really, really wanted to do math, but they're like, you get to do math, but you also have to do all these other aspects, depending on how deep you want to go into the field. I have spoken to some people and like the realm, like there are different paths for promotion where you don't have to maybe lead or do some other things, but I think there is a ground level that everybody will have to do. That may not be math, but it's required to do the math,
Math plus.
right? Math plus.
Yeah.
Right.
So, do you have any recommendations for math students, whether they be undergraduate or graduate students at the current time?
Um, General recommendations or like for school, internships.
Well, based on your experience. So, if you like were going to tell yourself 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, if you were to give yourself advice, knowing at that time you were going to study math in college, study math in graduate school, what would you tell yourself?
So up until I think maybe 2 years into graduate school, 2 or 3 years, is when I decided that I don't want to teach. I want to go into industry. So up until that point, all of the networking I've done has been teaching wise. So a lot of the people I've met were educators, they're in academia, they do something within the realm of teaching or research. So I would tell myself, you should really actively network. And I mean, everyone says that. And of course, it's such a simple thing, right? But you should actively start networking. I can't even tell you how. I mean, I could. There are a lot of different, I don't know what you would call them. Let's call them programs. So, like, one of them I'm thinking of is the Erdish Institute. And they have like a speaker come at one point it was every week or maybe bi-weekly. A speaker comes to talk about how they use their PhD, and it's not always a math PhD. And I think this was my biggest thing was I didn't see a math PhD, so I didn't feel strongly inclined to go speak to someone because I felt like, what could you tell me when your degree kind of aligns with what you said you wanted to do, right? So um, I would say take those chances and talk to those people still, because you never know what they can tell you or what they can offer. Um, some other things that I would say do, or this is something I'm getting into now, is try to Google different projects that you can do in your own time to display your skill. So if you get acclimated with GitHub, you can do different projects that you can Google them, and like you can Google projects that you think are indicative of a certain level that you need to be at for like jobs you're applying or internships you're applying to that'll showcase your skill. So you can take on those projects, you can code them up. I think different entities like R Studios or Python. I'm not sure if people are using C++ or MATLAB, but you can code your things up and put them on GitHub, apply them. You can put them on, I think, your LinkedIn. You can put them on your resume, put them on your application. So that way you also have this physical trail of work.
A
'Cause
portfolio, we might call it.
right, a portfolio of work. The hardest thing for me really is that I wanted to teach for so long. So I really fell back on the network, the people I've met, the things I've done, the work I've showcased. And then when it was time to switch over, and I don't think we have a lot of people who even discuss the switching. So like here at Iowa State, we're in R1 school. We do a lot of research, but I think at least right now, where historically the program was geared into making mathematicians who go back into academia. So for me, there was a lot of discovery I had to make on my own. And I will say that I am not someone who's mathematically naturally curious. I think if you give me an interesting problem, I can find the curiosity in that problem. So I've done something here at Iowa State called the EAGER course. It stands for Early Graduate Research. And so I was given a problem and I was able to find interesting things about it. But if you throw me a book and say, find something interesting, I don't think I can do that. So I think that made it hard not having someone to say, here are these things. So you will want to go find those things, right? Even if you're not the person who wants to go find them, I will say take the time to, even if it's just like 10 minutes a day, looking up something, Googling something, thinking of something to see how you could cross over, right? I think every day at my current stance now, so currently I'm applying for jobs, I do a little bit more Googling every day about like, what does a data engineer do? How do you apply SQL? There are different things like Tableau. I've done programs for data visualization, so every day I'm trying to do something a bit more to make myself a better candidate or kind of fill in those gaps of knowledge that I don't have currently so that I can make an appropriate switch to where I want to be.
So you're talking about developing skills
Yes.
with certain software packages, with certain, let's say, techniques and ideas from data science, data engineering, et cetera.
Yeah, I think I'm doing things that I wish I took a class for. So I will say that at Iowa State, I think maybe within my last year, I did try to do some looking into like different computer science in the computer science department, computer engineering department. And this is something that could be made. I didn't know like what could be the best class to take to get the knowledge that I wanted, right? So I didn't know the knowledge that I thought I wanted, right? So I knew I needed to know coding, I needed to know XYZ, but I didn't know what the class to take that would get me that exact knowledge I was looking for, let alone I didn't know if that was the knowledge I actually needed to know. So I didn't want to sign up for a full fall course load in my last year of graduate school, hoping that it would teach me things that maybe down the line I didn't even need to know, or it would turn out to be a class that I could look up this information for myself, right? Um, that independence was a lot for me. I think I would have liked more guidance. So I know I've said before, seek the knowledge, but also seek guidance. Try to find people Even if it's hard and they don't have to be at your home institution, right? You can connect on LinkedIn. A lot of people are very nice. You can send them an email and they'll tend to respond back, especially with their code or like on GitHub explaining their code to you. So outreach is always nice. Always reach out. Yeah.
Yes. Talk to people.
Yeah, because I think, but what makes it a little, I'm not harder, but it is a relatively new field, right? So people are trying to find different ways to cut at it. So I think that makes it hard to network, but easier at the same time because there's so many people trying to do it from a different perspective. Um, yeah.
So, Christian, it sounds to me like you've been on the bleeding edge, as they sometimes say in code development. You are on the bleeding edge of data science here at Iowa State because you came right as the data science program at the undergraduate level was starting. And as you indicated, there's a graduate level program that started maybe 2 years ago. So it, for good or for ill, you were right on that bleeding edge. And it seems like you were a pioneer for some of our students in that regard.
I think it's interesting because there have been a lot of people who have like asked about data science recently. I think when I first got here to Iowa State in 2018, a lot of people wanted to go into academia. So you didn't really hear people talk about industry, let alone data science. But now you're at the tail end of it, and a lot of people are like, hey, I might want to go do that. And then they have programs for it. And I'm like, wow, I wish things like that were around for me during my time. But it's nice to see things made for future people. And I've enjoyed the journey I took to get to where I am. So I've enjoyed the programs I did. I enjoy finding things to do. So it's not all a loss, you know. Sometimes having a list of things to do can be overwhelming. So finding little things to get out there and try. Because I think another hard part about it was I didn't want to sign up for something that was too advanced and then it turned out to not be what I really want to do. So it was also hard at this later stage, at least at the graduate level, to find something that is intro level enough for you, but also advanced enough for you. So it's like I have a PhD in math, or I'm getting a PhD in math. So it says a lot about my mathematical foundation, my ability to perform logic and think logically, my ability to do reasoning and just do math in general, and as well as at least for me, I believe that most math people should have a coding background, so I have some type of coding foundation. So it was hard to find a program that felt like, oh, you have this great math background, but you just need a little more help in the data science realm. I don't think a lot of those even exist, if they exist at all, right? That's a very tricky part of it, finding something to kind of help you get to the next step, right? So you can, I mean, outside of networking and like making a connection where someone says, oh, I'll hire you in this position, it's kind of like, how do I sell myself so that I show that I can do data science, right? So I think a lot of people see a math PhD and they think smart or like intelligent, but it's like, how do I get the skills to do the job? And how do I get the skills in such a way that I feel like I learned the right ones, right? Without doing something as, the word isn't long. Something that has as many requirements as getting a math PhD, for example, right? So you don't want to do something that requires too much of a commitment, which is where the summer programs come in nice, but it sometimes it's not long enough to get a full flavor of what it means to like do math in that regard. Right? I think a lot of them are just 6 weeks or 10 weeks, and then for some of that time they have to teach you. So it really could just be 3 weeks on a project or 6 weeks on a project.
To me, it seems like sometimes it's enough to just learn the vernacular in another field or another discipline.
That will definitely help.
Yeah. So As you said, math people are pretty talented and capable. And whether a math student knows different software packages and different programming languages, they can pick them up pretty quickly. But there's sometimes is a barrier when a student in mathematics is trying to, say, interview with somebody who's not coming from a mathematics background. There can be a disconnect in terms of the language and the concepts. And I think, based on just my own experience, but to some extent what you're describing as well, that if you can discuss big ideas in the language that they are familiar with to illustrate that you can illustrate you know what you're talking about, that can open a lot of doors in and of itself.
Yes. And I'm personally doing the work to get there now. So we have a graduate, Mike Derrico, who graduated in 2018. So he does data analytics currently. So I reached out to him at least twice so far for help, and he has given me great feedback, especially in the regard of making sure you use the language well. Another thing that I've learned is our resumes look differently, right? So I've known a little bit before because I have a friend who does data science as well. So you have to give away your fancy, beautiful LaTeX resumes, and you have to get on Microsoft Word and make a really boring one. But I think so something I had to adjust to. So something I can give to go from teaching to industry. For a resume for teaching, I think I used a lot of verbiage and a lot of things to show like not just leadership, but can lead a class, can work with people. But for data science, they want to see the skill and the impact of the skill. I think, or at least for me, because I've been in teaching or education for a while, I think the impact is already naturally felt anytime you stand in front of a group of students and impart information. That is the impact of it. But for data science, I was thinking like it's enough to just say, oh, I've had experience doing data visualization using matplotlib in Python, right? But Mike had told me, okay, you need to say that and what the impact of it was. Like, so maybe use matplotlib to create a dashboard for the Energy Justice Project. You can say, oh, I utilize Python, or we did a project with a group of 6 people using Python, right? But it would be better to say, on a team of 6 people, we utilize Python to build, let's say, a database, right? But say what the database is for, right? So the way in which you have to be descriptive, because the impact isn't always known how it is in education, is also something that's been tricky to get into. Which I'll say something that's been helpful is ChatGPT. In terms of how to phrase things better. If it isn't clear already, I'm not the best person with words. So running things through ChatGPT just really, you can keep doing it until you find the correct set of words you're looking for. So technology, right?
Yes, technology. So the thing you just said about not only describing what you've done, but the impact it had, I think that's fantastic advice.
Yes.
Maybe that's a good place to stop. So, Christian, I really appreciate you being here on Eric's Angle and sharing with us your experience as a math major, both in high school, college, and here at Iowa State University, getting your PhD. So, thanks again.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Eric, on Eric's Angle.